Good afternoon and welcome to the UW Board of Regents October meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Regent Peterson.
Here.
Regent Grebe.
Here.
Regent Atwell. Regent Atwell. Regent Bechtel.
Here.
Regent Delgado.
Here.
Regent Hall.
Here.
Regent Jones.
Here.
Regent Klein. Regent Lebzo. Regent Manydeeds.
Here.
Regent Mueller.
Here.
Regent Peterson.
Here.
Regent Plant.
Here.
Regent Stanford Taylor.
Here.
Regent Tiedemann.
Here.
Regent Walsh. Regent Whitburn. Regent Woodmansee.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we consider items on today's agenda, are there any board members who wish to declare any conflicts of interest regarding today's open session? Hearing none, let's move on with our meeting. Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Superior, and thank you to Chancellor Wachter and your team for your fine hospitality. Before we go any further, President Cross has numerous important introductions to make. President Cross.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It is my privilege to introduce several new members of the UW system family, as well as several familiar faces who are taking on new roles. So first, please join with me in welcoming Ani Morabel Sosa. Ani, would you stand up? Let me tell you a little bit about her before you applaud, okay? Ani is president and founder of the Michaela Group, which has assisted universities in improving student success, closing achievement gaps, and strategic planning, including diversifying students and faculty in the STEM fields. She has experience in 4 different university systems, including, most recently, serving as provost and senior vice president for academic affairs at Lehman College, part of the City University of New York. She also served in various roles at the University of Texas at El Paso, California Polytechnic State University, Georgia Southern University, and the University of Alabama. Ani earned her Bachelor of Science degree at the University of Puerto Rico, a master's degree at the State University of New York at Stony Brook, and a PhD at the University of Southern California. All of those are in chemistry. Ani started in her new role here in Wisconsin on October 1st, and we already have her up here at Superior. So welcome, Ani. It's nice to have you here. Charles Chuck Saunders has joined the UW Systems as our new Executive Director of the UW Trust Funds Office. So Charles, there's Charles. Chuck has had a long career in investment and endowment management, including time as an investment banker in Tokyo and New York, and later managing the international equity portfolio for over a decade at SWIB. After his SWIB tenure, Chuck spent 12 years as a partner and senior portfolio manager at North Road Capital Management, an investment advisory firm specializing in the management of international and global stock portfolios. He's also spent the past several years overseeing the endowment of Lawrence University in Appleton. Chuck holds the Chartered Financial Analyst CFA designation and graduated from Columbia Business School with an MBA. He holds a BA in Government from Lawrence University and has undertaken advanced Japanese language study at the Stanford Inter-University Center for Japanese Languages Studied in Yokohama. So welcome, Chuck. Nice to have you here. I'm also pleased to introduce Patrick Guilfoyle as the interim chancellor at UW Stout, following the retirement of Chancellor Emeritus Bob Meyer. Patrick has served as provost at UW Stout since July of 2015. A native of Wisconsin, he obtained a BS in biology and outdoor education from Northland College, a Master of Arts in Teaching and Biology from UW-Eau Claire, and a PhD in Bacteriology from UW-Madison. He's worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the Whitehead Institute at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. After his postdoctoral work, he accepted a position at Bemidji State, where he spent more than 20 years as a faculty member, department chair, associate dean, and associate vice president for academic affairs. So welcome, Patrick. It's nice to have you here with us. We also welcome Cheryl Van Groesven, who is serving as the interim chancellor of UW Green Bay. There's Cheryl. She succeeds Chancellor Gary Miller in this position. Cheryl is UW Green Bay's vice chancellor for business and finance. Since joining the institution in 2004, she has served in numerous roles at the university, including as director of human resources and affirmative action. Cheryl earned her bachelor's in human resources management from Upper Iowa University and her master's from Silver Lake College in Manitowoc. Thank you, Cheryl. Welcome. Welcome also to John Carl Schultz. Where's John? There he is. He's a little taller than the rest of us. So, the new provost and vice chancellor for academic affairs at UW-Madison. In this role, Carl will serve as the chief operating officer and deputy to the chancellor in the overall academic leadership and administrative management of the university. Carl started in his new position in August after 6 years as the dean of the College of Letters and Science at UW-Madison. He is also the Nellie June Gray Professor of Economic Policy in the Department of Economics, which he joined in 1988. Carl's experience also includes time as a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Tax Analysis at the U.S. Treasury. I wish that was the UW Treasury. And as a Senior Staff Economist at the Council of Economic Advisors. In the early 2000s, Carl directed the Institute for Research on Poverty at UW-Madison. A native of Nebraska? Really? Schultz graduated from Carleton College in Northfield, Minnesota, and earned his doctorate from Stanford. Welcome, Carl. Now taking on the interim role of provost at UW-Stout is Glenda Lee Rodriguez. Glenda, stand. A member of the UW-Stout community since 2005. She served a variety of roles, including as a faculty member, student organization advisor, governor's representative on a whole array of campus committees, department chair, and associate provost. Glenda Lee has a master's degree from Georgia Institute of Technology and a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a concentration in architecture from Yale. She also has a professional certificate in higher education administration from Harvard. She is a certified architect in Wisconsin and was the UW System Outstanding Woman of Color in Education recipient in the fall of 2008. So welcome, Glenda Lee. So finally, we'd also like to welcome Christina Rickert, who will be serving as interim Chief Business Officer at UW-Stevens Point. Christina will actually be doing split duty, continuing to also serve as the university's controller and director of financial operations. She's been a member of the UW-Stevens Point campus since 2016, previously serving as a financial program supervisor in business services at UW-La Crosse. She has an MBA and a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting, both from Viterbo University in La Crosse. So welcome, Christina. Welcome to each of you. So with that, President Peterson.
Thank you, President Cross, and I do extend a warm welcome to all of our new colleagues. We do look forward to working with you. I will speak very slowly, Ray, as I turn the page, given how many introductions you just made. As we start our business here at UW-Superior, President Cross would like to say a few words about the theme of this month's meeting. President Cross.
As you all know, we attempt to create a theme around which each meeting is developed. So the All in Wisconsin theme for October is influential, highlighting how the influence of the UW system extends beyond our classrooms and laboratories into lives and communities across the state. At this meeting, we will see how the UW system is influential in driving research that improves lives, that strengthens our state's economy, and is a benefit to everyone. At the core, this is the Wisconsin idea in action. The challenges facing the people of Wisconsin are the challenges facing the UW system. They're inseparable. Let me give you a few examples. The Wisconsin dairy is in crisis. The UW system is playing a leadership role in both organizing around the creation of a dairy innovation hub and spearheading a dairy task force to help Wisconsin farmers. In the Ready Committee this morning, Regent Chris Peterson talked about the challenges facing high-tech agriculture from the very personal perspective of her family's farming operation and how the UW's work through the Dairy Hub can make a difference. Several of us visited her farm yesterday. Invasive species threaten our Great Lakes, as a number of us heard this morning during our tour of UW-Superior's Lake Superior Research Institute. This university is building partnerships and conducting vital research to reduce the spread of invasive species in the Great Lakes. UW-Superior holds one of 2 facilities in the United States developing technology with support from the Federal Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Improving math competency is critical to student success. The UW Systems Math Initiative, which is a 3-year program to improve competency through adding relevant and timely coursework, is part of our institution-level emphasis on improving student retention, success, and completion. The UW system is also influential in expanding opportunities that improve lives, like the Literacy Link project, which we will hear more about tomorrow. Building on research that stresses the importance of early childhood education, this project is helping connect parents who are involved in the justice system with their kids in powerful ways that can change lives for the better. By creating positive experiences around literacy, we can help build family support that reduces recidivism and combats learning delays often found in children of incarcerated parents. We are also being responsive to the needs of businesses and our students. Earlier today, in the Education Committee, several new academic programs were approved in the areas of computer engineering, data science, and business analytics, all areas of keen interest and high demand for employers. These are just a few of the examples of how the UW system plays a key role and influential role in building a better Wisconsin. And yep, it's all in Wisconsin. President Peterson.
Thank you, President Cross. One of the best parts about taking our Regents show on the road is the opportunity it gives us to learn more about the great campuses that make up the UW system and how each of them, in their own unique way, is meeting the needs of our state. Here to share UW-Superior's small but mighty story is our host, Chancellor Renee Wachter.
Thank you. Welcome to members of the Board of Regents, to our special guests, and to members of our Yellow Jacket community. We are so pleased to be able to host you up here today for this meeting. Okay, who's got my clicker? Otherwise, we're going nowhere fast. So Buzz says that you indeed are here, and we like to think of ourselves as the Polaris in the constellation that is the UW system, with a coverage of a territory literally of 22,000 miles, about the size of New Hampshire and Vermont combined. Before I get started with this presentation, I hope that you walk away today with an appreciation of the campus, with its small but mighty nature, and with the impact and role that it plays in our community. As we start this, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land that we occupy. In honor of the Anishinaabe, the original peoples and caretakers of this land, we'd like to recognize that the University of Wisconsin-Superior inhabits the land of the Ojibwe people. So please take a moment to honor and celebrate ancestral Ojibwe land and the sacred lands of all Indigenous people. We are surrounded by the Lakota-Ray, the Lac du Flambeau, and the Red Cliff tribes. At this time, I'd like everyone to please rise as you are able and remove your headwear for an honor song for our esteemed guests. The song pays tribute and respect to all of those who lead and support student achievement. We welcome the Buffalo Bay Singers of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Ojibwe And if there's any fellow members in the audience, we invite them to come forward and be by the drums. Thank you. So the character of any institution has its roots in how it began. And to appreciate where the university is today, it's kind of helpful to take that look backwards to see where we were, what our origins were, and how we've developed. So we have prepared a short segment that kind of gives you this overview.
The University of Wisconsin-Superior first opened its doors in 1896 as the Superior Normal School. Normal schools were state-run institutions that trained elementary and secondary school teachers. Established by the Wisconsin legislature, the new school's mission was vital to the region's future. Properly educated teachers were desperately needed in the small towns and rural school districts of northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. The new building was the latest design in every detail, with labs, classrooms, and a working elementary school inside for the teachers in training. Initial enrollment far exceeded expectations, and in 1908, the school added a spacious east wing. It was here that the school's pioneering work in kindergarten education took root. A new concept at the time, Superior quickly became a leader in the field. As an advertisement for the normal school from the early 1900s reads, "The demand for teachers in northern Wisconsin is greater than the supply." To keep pace with the school's rapid growth, a west wing was added, with a library and additional classrooms. Then, on the night of March 17, 1914, tragedy struck. An electrical fault in the east wing sparked a fire that would consume the building. For the next year and a half, classes were held at various places around the city while a new building was being constructed. Now known as Old Main, the new Superior Normal School reopened in 1916. That same year, the school became the first academic institution in Wisconsin to be accredited. Today, UW-Superior holds the distinction of having the longest continuous accreditation in the state. Despite the hardships it caused, the fire of 1914 was in many ways a blessing. The extensive rebuilding it necessitated put Superior back in the position of being one of the best equipped normal schools in the state. And in 1926, after a generation of training teachers, Superior Normal School was authorized to grant a 4-year bachelor's degree in education. A new name, Superior State Teachers College, proclaimed the institution's new role. The post-war years brought growth, both physical and academic, to the campus. New buildings went up, enrollment boomed, and the curriculum was diversified to expand beyond teacher education into areas such as business, science, music, and art. Several graduate programs were also added. The Wisconsin idea of a well-rounded liberal arts education was adopted, and in 1951, the institution's name was changed to Wisconsin State College Superior to better reflect its expanded mission. Wisconsin state colleges were eventually reclassified as universities, so in 1964, the school was renamed Wisconsin State University Superior. Finally, in 1971, it became a part of the University of Wisconsin system and acquired its present name. During this time, the number of students from outside the region and from foreign countries increased significantly. The growing diversity of the student body meant students were being exposed to a broader range of experiences and worldviews. In 1960, there were no international students on campus. Today, there are more than 180 from over 40 countries. In 1979, Arnold Schwarzenegger, at that time famous as Mr. Universe, earned his diploma through the newly established distance learning program. Research became a focus of the university with the founding of the Lake Superior Research Institute, followed by the Transportation and Logistics Research Center, the Great Lakes Maritime Research Institute, and the Lake Superior National Estuarine Research Reserve. Today, UW-Superior students enjoy a wide array of undergraduate research opportunities. In June of 2012, a flood swept the city, damaging many of the buildings on campus. But much like the fire of 1914, the resulting repairs left the university stronger than before. Today, UW-Superior continues evolving to meet the needs of the region and the world. We continue to foster and value diversity, to lead the way in vital research and cutting-edge programs, to balance athletic achievement with academic accomplishment, to instill students with a passion for knowledge and the skills for success. What began as a small training school for teachers has become a nationally recognized institution of higher education, with each new generation leaving its mark.
So as you can see, we have come a long way. In fact, last year we celebrated our 125th anniversary, and what you see there are pictures. Up in the upper left is the dedication of the William Pope Wright Student Center, named after our beloved and trailblazing African-American art professor Pope Wright, and the other are selected shots from some of the activities that we held with the community this summer. There we go. Now is in our history, the students are really why we're here. It's why we get up in the morning, it's why we get excited to face the day, and it's what keeps us going in spite of all the challenges that are out there. So I want to tell you a little bit about our students. Overall, they are diverse. They present unique challenges and opportunities as we serve them. They are a hardworking bunch, and they are spread throughout the state and the world. So not quite half are the first in their family to attend college. So when we talk about opportunity gaps and equality and access, this is important because when these students succeed, it affects the generations after them, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, and the family members who follow. We serve a very broad population, returners, veterans, people across the state seeking access via our online programs. At graduation, I get a kick because I get to talk about the youngest and the oldest graduate, and this last year, our oldest was in his 70s. And he was just simply seeking to come back and finish that degree that he had started so many years ago. Our athletes become, because number one, they're students first, but also because they love sport. And so these are, again, hardworking students, and we know that they persist, they retain, and they go on to graduate. The diversity that was cultivated in the 60s still exists today. Typically, we rank right after Madison in terms of the percentage of international students on campus. And I think that presents really tremendous opportunities because they bring a much-needed diversity to what is a very homogeneous population up here. And you can kind of get a view from the map, sort of where they're coming from. The financial needs. We do know that our students have great financial needs. They are Pell eligible, they are independent, and they are working. And that's why state aid and grants are so important and why the work of our foundations are so important. If we want a society that represents us all, then we need to be supporting those students and their access. We, like some of our sister institutions, are located next to a state border. And in this age when talent is short, we like to think of ourselves as a net importer. We know that 36% of our graduates remain here in the Twin Ports. So of the many things I could talk to you about today, there's two I want you to take away with. One is what are we doing to support the needs of our student, and the other is the impact that we have on our community. So let me talk a little bit about finding their superior. If you could sum up what do we do for students, I would call it helping them find their superior, their bold, audacious dream that lies just below the surface, waiting to emerge, dreaming without boundaries, uncovering talents and abilities that they never knew they had. Here, those dreams are our inspiration, and here they find their superior. So how do we support them? Fortunately, we have a partner that helps their dreams come true. So I want to touch on the role of our foundations, because without them, we would look like very different institutions. Last year, donors from the foundation provided $850,000 of scholarship support and over $1.3 million to the campus as a whole. That support ranges from maybe $100 to a full ride. That's tuition, fees, and books. We know that 14% of our students receive a scholarship support, and that actually equals, when we go in and add that up, 30% of their tuition. One example of the generosity of the donors are the Swenson Scholars, and Jim and Sue Swenson, and they're pictured at the bottom at one of our scholar events. It's a unique program. It began in 1994 with 8 full-ride scholarships of $3,000 each. It is now in its silver anniversary. That's 25 years. 34 students majoring in biology, chemistry, math, and computer science were awarded full ride scholarships this last year. Since its inception, over 932 annual scholarships have been awarded for a total of over $6 million. When one life is changed, it changes all of those after them. I call that exponential empowerment and extraordinary opportunities. I'd like to show you what those dollars mean to our students and how it provides access. So Dakota is a student who came to us this past fall. He's Upward Bound and a Swenson Scholar, and that'll be explained, but I think that you will find his story quite compelling.
When he was little, he was always into video games, reading, big on reading, math, always doing math problems.
I wanted to be a chemist. Chemistry interested me because it was a way to explain everything that goes on in the world. In high school, I was fairly interested in about the same things because I really enjoyed math and a lot of the math-based sciences.
I met Dakota the first time as a rising ninth grader, so we were at the Superior Middle School interviewing for students to join our program for the upcoming summer.
I got involved with Upward Bound in 8th grade, and they came to my geometry class and talked about it, and it was the first time I've ever actually taken the initiative to involve myself in something as big as that.
Upward Bound program is a college prep program for first generation, potentially low-income students who have high potential in going to college. We are housed at the University of Wisconsin-Superior.
My experience was very beneficial. I was very quiet and not outgoing at all and not willing to take the risks I needed to succeed. And I didn't really know anything about college.
Dakota Dansborough.
Taking a look at the demographics of this area, about 50% of the students that come from Superior High School have other plans in going to college. So I think that college exposure is so important.
The idea of going to UWS definitely started because of Upward Bound, experiencing life in the dorms and what college classes are similar to. I was just sitting in study hall 7th hour and I got both a text and an email at the same time, and I was just mind blown. It said congratulations on receiving the UW-Superior Foundation Swenson Scholarship. It's a full tuition scholarship for incoming freshmen who declare their majors as biology, chemistry, computer science, or math. I just couldn't believe it at first. Knew I wanted to stay local, and that definitely made my decision clear. Like, they want me here, so I'm gonna come.
I mean, he's 2 years ahead of his classmates in math. He would tutor our own students in math in those areas. Dakota was a prime candidate for that scholarship.
He doesn't have to worry about loans and things, and it just kind of lets us help support him better without us financially worrying.
Well, I'm officially moved into campus, and this is where I'm living. Now that I've started classes, I'm really enjoying the challenge, like learning something completely new, and it's really interesting because it's not necessarily something I don't know, it's just applying it in a completely different way.
And also, I'm now a tutor here at Upward Bound, and so it's pretty cool because it's kind of come full circle.
I'm most proud of just all the hard work he put in. Like, he was very, I mean, if he'd get a B in a test, he'd be like, I can do better next time, or, oh man, I knew I should have switched this, or like, he was always like out to like improve himself.
I think the sky's the limit for Dakota. I can see him in the future being the next like IBM CEO. The other piece that sometimes crosses my mind is like the engineering piece that I think he'd be really good at. He possesses impeccable problem-solving skills and the ability to really focus until he finds a solution to whatever the problem is. And I don't come across students like that all the time.
My hope for the future is to be successful and be able to say that I'm successful.
We also work very hard to address and support our students with their mental health and well-being needs. And we believe it's always more efficient and helpful to head them off before they escalate. And that enters the Pruitt Center and the work that was being done. The concept of mindfulness and well-being started as a working group with faculty and staff, and I know some of them are out there. If they would stand as I call out their name, Randy Barker, who's serving as our interim director of the center, Mimi Rapley-Larson, assistant professor of social work, Mary Lee Nichols, associate professor of teacher education, Siobhan Stocker, Department Chair, Human Behavior, Justice, and Diversity, and Associate Professor of Psychology, and Chrissy Patterson, Assistant Director of Campus Rec. These folks are really the ones that got this started. Their working group was formed following their participation in the Greater Good Science Summer Institute for Educators out of Berkeley, California, and was inspired by the work of leading researchers focused on well-being in education. Positive psychology. For those of you in the 50s and 60s, you might go, oh, that's a little woo-woo. But really, there is neuroscience and bioscience that says that by changing our mental state through tools and techniques, we can affect not only our mental health, but our physical health as well. One of the unique partnerships that we have is that between what's happening with our athletics department and the Pruitt Center. The Sports Science Institute of the NCAA believes that mental health is a part of, not apart from student athlete mental health, physical health. Mental health exists on a spectrum, on a continuum, with resilience and thriving at one end, and those kinds of disorders that can disrupt a college student's functioning and performance in the other. You've heard from other board presentations that the best case scenario is to do enough preventative work early enough so that the problems are diffused and don't escalate. The Pruitt Center is that mechanism to deliver those tools and techniques. Randy Barker and his team conduct intake and workshops with these students from the moment they set on campus throughout their career here. And that's just one example of the techniques that have been incorporated into classes, are presented to all of our incoming student body, and are offered to the community of mental health and K-12 educational professionals to increase resilience, foster positive mental health, and this is only after a year of operation. In an interesting twist, turnabout is fair play. You know, the National Suicide Prevention Day draws attention to the fact that one person dies by suicide every 40 seconds in the world. Athletes at UW-Superior are trying to raise awareness about the problem. Throughout the year, the Yellow Jacket teams play what they call cause games, and the proceeds of these games this year are benefiting the Pruitt Center for Mindfulness and Wellbeing. And so what our athletics director says is we have the ability to impact not only our student athletes, but the community. The outreach to our youth educates them on mental health and breaks the stigma that allows individuals to seek help and to seek the support that they need. So what does this all add up to? Well, we like to call it small but mighty superior outcomes. And so if we take a look at the chart up there, you'll see that an overwhelming number go right out into the workforce in the area in which they were trained. But I think what my campus would say and what our faculty would say is they're really proud of that 17% that go right on to graduate school. So they're either going off into master's programs or they're entering into PhD programs right out of UW-Superior. Only a small percentage are still out there seeking employment, and oftentimes it's just a matter of finding that right fit. Other than the sheer, so a few of you were around when I was inaugurated, and I think Regent Many-Deeds year one and Regent Whippert is the other. At that time, during the inauguration, I talked about partnerships for progress and how important it was to be connected to our community. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit about how we impact our community. One of the first ways is through our economic horsepower, and it had been about a decade since we had done an economic impact study, and I think what you're seeing the results over here is that we do make a significant and profound difference in terms of what we're able to contribute. $54 million of local input, 626 jobs, that's direct and indirect, which means that we are one of the biggest influencers of employment in the area. That's just in Superior and Douglas County, although we know that our reach goes way beyond that. These activities provide $3 million in state and local taxes. We also know, too, that 65% of our students and 49% of our employees would not stay and spend here if they did not attend or were employed by the university. We also took a look on community engagement. Our students were involved with academic and other projects in the community for 58,000 hours, 700 community partners, and 47% of the employees were connected to the community through these activities. Small but mighty. We make an impact also in terms of the applied research. Nearly $2 million this last year in terms of research awards, which I think, in my experience, is quite remarkable for a campus this size. Some of their institutes are listed up there: the Great Lakes Maritime Research Institute, Lake Superior Research Institute, the Transportation and Logistics Research Center, and our association with the NER. Now, our Small Business Development Center is not an institute, but it just won one of the state awards for the work that it's done in helping clients achieve their goals. Most recently, because of the interest in water quality issues, Lake Superior Research Institute's work has risen to the surface. Those of you that were not able to go on the tour, I have a little bit of an overview for you.
There is such a huge population of people that depend on fresh water for drinking, number one, but also for recreation and aesthetics, and it's part of our quality of life.
It's in its name, it's superior. And it's cold, it's deep, it's oligotrophic, which means it's lacking nutrients. Small changes in the environment could potentially have big impacts. LSRI is Lake Superior Research Institute. It's an applied research center located at the University of Wisconsin-Superior. Typically, we focus on water-related issues from drinking water, well water, to larger projects like our ballast water.
I manage what's called the Great Waters Research Collaborative. We focus specifically on controlling the spread of invasive species and stopping the introduction of invasive species via the ballast water.
Ballast water is water that's used to maintain the stability, the trim, and the safety and integrity of the ship before it goes to its next destination to pick up new cargo. It may take on water to help maintain that stability. Once they get to that new destination, that water that's taken up at that first port will have to be offloaded, and then they'll discharge that water in any of the organisms, pathogens that are involved or in that water.
Historically, that was not regulated. People didn't know about the issue of the transport of organisms in ballast water. The number one threat would be loss of biodiversity within the Great Lakes ecosystem. Populations that we depend on, not just for functioning of the ecosystem itself, but for economic reasons as well. The ones that people think of most commonly, the zebra mussel, because that has affected all of the Great Lakes and now is all over in inland lakes as well. The land-based ballast water testing facility at Montreal Pier in Superior is the only one on the Great Lakes. There are other land-based test facilities, and they are located in the fjords of Norway and the west coast of the United States, but the populations of organisms and the water quality conditions are extremely different.
This facility will allow us to install treatment technologies to help remove these unwanted organisms at a large scale. It also allows us to test and verify and vet these treatment systems before they're installed on a ship.
Students are very important for everything that we do.
I mainly culture organisms in order to ensure their survival for the different tests that are done here at LSRI.
You're not going to just not feed your dog one day. Like, we have organisms and they have to be fed and they have to get taken care of. So like, we have to learn how to do that efficiently.
The students that are employed through us gain hands-on training. At the end of the day, they are critical thinkers and problem solvers that really take them into some interesting graduate study programs and jobs. It's called the Great Waters Research Collaborative, and if we look at the term collaborative really includes the maritime industry, the academic researchers, the environmental organizations. It brings them together under one umbrella in a non-threatening way to help tackle this environmental problem, as well as stimulate and create the development of treatment technologies that also results in jobs.
We impact our community through the bringing of arts and culture. In fact, I invite everyone here to the concert tonight at the Cathedral of Christ the King. You can kind of get a preview there on the slide. We are so lucky to be using one of the most beautiful and acoustically designed buildings in the city to deliver music by our faculty and staff to the community every year. It's just one of the examples of the win-win partnerships that we have with our community. And I know you're typically stuck on the campus, so we wanted to get you off campus because that's where we often are. Oops. Small but mighty, we also impact our community through innovative programming, particularly that addresses workforce needs. This is a Phoenix story with multiple angles. So our graduate education leadership programs were basically dying programs, and the faculty would be the first to tell you that. They were on suspension. This was in 2014, and really all seemed lost. But there were 2 faculty who were willing to take on the challenge, and I think one of them is out there in the audience. If Mary Jane Birch would please stand up and take a bow. So this program, we knew there was still a need out there for access to these programs, and so she and her colleague basically reimagined it. It became intensive, and it was put online. Academic Partnerships was a contract that you approved. They were to assist with course design, recruitment, and process streamlining. And it meant a complete and total redesign of every course from face-to-face to an online modality in a very short period of time. And I want to give you one story of how this has affected people. And those of you from the east side of the state, you may know her. Does the name Carmen Adams ring a bell? This is her story. Shortly after her brother Corey returned home from his final Air Force tour from the Middle East in early 2017, he went missing. His body was discovered 18 days later. He had suffered from PTSD and bipolar disorder before his untimely death at the age of 45. You remember that Carmen worked with Senator LaToya Johnson from Milwaukee to establish the Corey Adams Searchlight Act that was signed into law last year in 2018. This tragedy prompted Adams, a teacher for more than a decade, to enroll in our Master of Science in Education Special Ed online program. Losing my brother was one of the main reasons why I went back to school to earn a degree in special education, she said. I wanted to get a better understanding of the students I was working with. She chose our online program in special education. I love online because while I'm at work on my lunch break, I can do my homework or my readings. I don't have to drive anywhere, so I don't have to worry about using gas. I'm able to do it on my own time. And that's what I like about the online experience. The flexibility is enormous. The personal attention from UW-Superior faculty proved that she had made the right choice. I had the same professors over and over for my classes. I loved them, and they were a lot of help. They were good about getting back to me anytime I had a question. Adams was hired as a 7th and 8th grade special ed teacher for the Milwaukee Public Schools system for the 2018-19 school year, and she loves her new role. With Corey, her brother, on her mind and a full heart, she walked across the graduation stage this May. I wasn't going to go, but my parents said, no, we are going. So I drove with them and my daughter Camry 6 hours to Superior. Walking across that stage was emotional. It was like, I did it, and I'm setting trends for my people and my family. It was awesome. Today, the GEO program not only is true to our heritage, but is also one of the fastest growing graduate programs in UW-Superior history. Back in 2014, it had 24 students across 3 programs. Now it's 267, providing resources that are helping maintain the fiscal strength of the institution. Finally, we impact our community through the relationships that we cultivate via our academic programs. And those are just some of the examples out there. I could have chosen any one of them, and I could have filled probably 100 slides with more examples. These relationships enable our partners to get answers and seek solutions to problems that would be beyond their scope and resources. One outstanding example of this work has occurred over many years in the Legal Studies and Criminal Justice program and the Superior Police Department. So I would invite my panelists to please come forward. Dr. Maria Stalzer-Wyant-Kuzo may look like a familiar face. She's a 25-year faculty member and professor of the Legal Studies program and former coordinator for the Legal Studies and Criminal Justice program. She looks familiar because she's serving as our interim provost and vice chancellor for academic affairs. You should know that this program is one of our highest enrolling majors with over 100 majors and minors every year. She implemented the Community Partnerships Project embedded into the Criminal Justice 492 Criminal Justice Policy Issues and Reform Senior Capstone course, and she's going to tell you about how that course came to be. Superior Police Officer Charlie Malin, alumnus of the major, graduated with honors in 2017. He's the former president of the Criminal Justice Student Association and an award-winning 2.5-year member of the Superior Police Department as a patrol officer. Charlie was one of the seniors who helped design the community research project approach. And finally, Superior Chief of Police Nick Alexander, a 22-year veteran of the Superior Police Department and serving as the Chief of Police for the past 5 years. Chief Alexander has been one of the primary community partners who have collaborated with Dr. Kuzo and the senior criminal justice researchers to complete 3 critical projects between 2016 and 2018. The partnership continues to this day, and he will tell you why. Take it away, Dr. Kuzo.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. So in the fall of 2016, I assumed primary responsibility for teaching the senior capstone course in criminal justice. This was a new assumption of duty for me due to retirements and other unexpected staff changes. Within 3 weeks of beginning that semester, I decided that the curriculum that I had inherited needed to go, and I threw out the syllabus. I sat down with that group, that amazing group of senior criminal justice students, and together we decided that that capstone course needed to allow them to cut their chops on something that would be real and relevant and meaningful and involve their pre-professional and career goals. The Community Partnerships Project was born. I invited community partners to propose applied community-based research that would be useful to their goals. One of the partners who stepped forward was my very esteemed colleague, Chief Nick Alexander from the Superior Police Department. Now, the plan was for each senior to partner with 2 or 3 other members of the course and serve the direct applied research needs of their chosen community partner. That fall semester, there were 23 criminal justice seniors that were involved in 9 different community partner applied research projects, and the cohort included Charlie, who is here today. That fall, he and 3 others, Thomas Fleming, Caleb Hohensee, and Tony Willett, 4 traditionally aged seniors, took on a large project with Chief of Police Alexander of the Superior Police Department. They designed, completed, analyzed, and reported on the results of the first ever community survey for the city of Superior to assess what was working, what wasn't working, and what could be improved upon for the entire police department. Now, the project involved over 400 hours of service for the research and culminated in a 148-page report that was summarized in a press conference at the police department. Chief Alexander made use of this research in the future in his subsequent strategic planning efforts and to support other grant applications that he will tell you about. That one project was so impactful that the chief became a regular, and he has completed numerous other similar projects over the last several years. These scholarly and academic skills of our criminal justice seniors allowed him to complete a goal that the department could never have afforded to do at a price that they could afford, which was nothing. But to our seniors who quadrupled their research skills in that one project, to the department who discovered exactly what their community was thinking about regarding the police department in the region, this was of utter value. Charlie is a living example of the result of that work. Now, since that time, the program sponsored 20 different community partner applied research projects with 47 graduating criminal justice seniors who engaged with 13 different community partners in the law and justice field throughout our region. This also led to our 300-level methods course being redesigned to serve 12 community partners to generate 18 literature reviews on topics that they themselves were looking at and needed to obtain research and background about to be able to move forward grant applications or other things. The Superior Police Department has benefited from 4 projects alone since the beginning of this effort. So we are small but mighty here, and this one commitment has rippled out into the law and justice community in our region, providing real value. And I'm going to let Charlie tell you what his experience was like.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience with you today. In fall of 2016, I was beginning my senior year at UW-Superior as a legal studies criminal justice concentration major. At this time, I was uncertain of which direction to move towards my future professional or advanced education pathway. I enrolled in the required senior class, Criminal Justice 492, which was labeled as a course in criminal justice issues and reform. When the class started, it seemed like it would be similar to many other courses I had already taken, not too much and fairly easily doable. Within 3 weeks, it changed. Dr. Kuzo consulted with us about how we could make the senior class more relevant and more useful. Several discussions led to a complete redesign and a focus on doing a real-world research project for a community partner. I partnered with 3 other students who I knew from the Criminal Justice Student Association, and because we're all interested in potential careers in law enforcement, we chose the SPD Community Survey project with Chief Alexander. At first, we were just excited to work with the chief and to be doing something real. I quickly realized that this was an involved undertaking that would require me to grow my skills rapidly or risk failing in the project. Together as a team, with Dr. Kuzo's help and the chief's patience, we did it. During this project, I learned to listen to our clients' needs and research other police survey tools. We designed an original customized survey in Qualtrics and organized the community survey process in all ways. I kept communication flowing between our team and the chief. Once the survey closed, we analyzed all the quantitative and qualitative results into themes and wrote a large final report capturing the answers to the questions about what was working, what wasn't working, and what could be improved upon with the Superior Police Department. Thomas Fleming and I presented the findings to the Superior Police Department command staff, and within a couple weeks, I shared the results back to the community in a press conference with the chief. During this project, I learned about the hard work of research. It wasn't easy, and I had to step up to the plate and deliver the final product. I had to step outside my comfort zone many times to complete this project, but I learned that I could. During this project, I learned effective teamwork and the power of communication with our client. I made important professional connections and demonstrated that I and my team could add value to the department. I exercised problem-solving skills at a whole new level. When you're at a university, classwork is often internal, and your successes and failures result in a grade. But when you serve a community partner, your successes and failures impact much broader. I learned to take responsibility for that outcome. I did work that mattered to my community partner and to me and to my future dreams. I clarified that I did want a career in law enforcement, and in the spring of 2017, prior to my graduation, I applied for and was ultimately invited to join the Superior Police Department as a police officer. I've been proudly working there ever since. One of the best parts about this experience was the evolving relationship that I had with Dr. Kuzo. She was an instructor that I had learned from and admired, and that even my older siblings had told me about. This project and our common work my senior year allowed us to develop a teaching, mentoring, research partnering, and ultimately a powerful ongoing friendship. Now she's not only Dr. Kuzo, but my great friend Maria. I remain grateful for this project and all the other opportunities I had in the UW-Superior Legal Studies and Criminal Justice program. And I'll let the chief wrap it up.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak with you and share my experiences with UWS. I'd like to point out I have very kind staff. They obviously provided a photo to the university that was about a decade old, but nonetheless, I'm appreciative of that. During my application process for the chief's position, the candidates were asked to detail a variety of tasks that they wanted to accomplish as chief. One goal of mine was to have a community survey to gauge the public's perception and trust of the police department, along with identifying what areas the community would like to see the police department focus on. During my career at SPD, we have never conducted a survey, and I thought it was important to find out what issues matter most to our citizens and to use that data to drive our resources and to fulfill our mission. The student researchers did an outstanding job in creating a comprehensive survey and analysis of the results. We have been able to use that data to better allocate our resources on the issues that matter most to our community. By seeking the public's input, we have been able to gain their trust and respect and improve our legitimacy. It also internally has demonstrated to our officers our focus on community policing and meeting the needs of the public. The results of the survey have also influenced the type of training that we have provided to our officers and aligned our enforcement and other initiatives with the community's needs. Through this partnership with UWS, we have since completed multiple other projects to include a research project on AODA issues, alcohol and other drug abuse, and its correlation to our arrests or criminal complaints in our community. Another project was the development of an AODA pamphlet and educational material. This project created a comprehensive guide for community members on all of the rehabilitation and counseling resources that were available in the area. These two projects helped address concerns that were raised during the community survey, and furthermore provided me with the research and data that I used to apply for a grant to start a pilot pre-booking diversion program here in Superior. The idea was to help addicts avoid the criminal justice system and get onto a path of recovery. This program is now known as the Pathways to Hope and is serving as a model across the state of Wisconsin. The program has been so successful that has been funded an additional 2 years by the Wisconsin Department of Justice for a total award of $324,000. The creation and launch of this program was very time-consuming, and we benefited by having a UWS intern student from the social work program assist us in the development. To this day, future classes of students here at UWS are continuing to work on the Pathways to Hope project, and I'm currently working with one of the instructors and 3 students to continue the research and analysis for it. Although our police department is staffed with capable people, but we do not have the time or the expertise to conduct research of this scope or quality. Furthermore, we do not have the funding in our budget to hire outside researchers and consultants. And just to kind of quantify what Dr. Kuzo said, the community survey was free of charge to our agency. Our neighboring agency conducted a similar survey, a much larger city that had a lower overall turnout of responses, and they paid, I think, in the area of $10,000 for it, just to kind of quantify to you the value that we received from that collaboration. I've truly been impressed with the overall quality and work hours that have gone into these projects. A collateral benefit has been greater exposure of our police department to the students and allowing them to see how our department works within our community. It has also resulted in the creation of a certificate in ethical policing program here on campus, which I believe will help better prepare students for a career in law enforcement. And I'd be remiss to not recognize the accomplishments of the continuing education department, particularly Lisa Matson and Danielle Fagan in their development of that program. This has certainly helped generate interest in students seeking careers at the Superior Police Department, and during my tenure as chief, I have hired well over a dozen UWS criminal justice and legal studies graduates. I believe this has greatly impacted our recruiting of the best and brightest candidates for our agency. I could have never envisioned how valuable the partnership with UWS would have been when I started off as chief nearly 5 years ago. I can attribute many of my successes directly to the work product we have received from the students, as well as the dedicated faculty and staff here at UWS. In particular, the vision of Dr. Kuzo and her willingness to help foster these projects has resulted in remarkable collaboration that has some very measurable impacts in our community. I could not be more grateful for this relationship, Chancellor, and I pass the baton to you.
Thank you. This is just one example of the influential learning experiences that we provide every day for our students in the region. They bring the real world to the students and the students to the real world so that they're ready for careers and advancing on into other educational pathways. Yeah, we may be small, but we have a mighty impact here. So to sum this presentation up, small but mighty, why we're worth investing in, hopefully you're getting the sense that we really do make a big impact. Some challenges that we face, one certainly is our economies of scale. When you're small and compliance increases and demands increase, we all get stretched just a little bit further. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about faculty and staff salaries. You're getting the gist that it's our faculty who are really putting the time and effort in to make sure that our students are successful and that they're ready. We are an educational rich environment here, or maybe we should say challenged. We have 4 other institutions in our own backyard, and like our sister institutions, we're trying to recruit for talent, and so those salaries make a difference. Also talking about funding innovation and structure to support equity. You know, imagine businesses that went from brick and mortar to online. Or Regent Peterson, I even think of your farm, how it had to change technologies. I mean, there's an infrastructure that has to happen. Your business model changes, your technology changes, your training and support needs change, and so that's true for us as well. And finally, aging facilities. So you saw in the video, Old Main was built in 1916. We've got lots of facilities on campus that were built in the early 50s, lovely as they are aging, and they support our students' well-being as much as they do our academic programming, and we could use their support as well. So with that, I want to thank you so much for your attention, for being here today, and for giving us this opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Chancellor Wachter, and thank you, panelists. Very informative. Appreciate you being here. Clearly, this is a campus, University of Wisconsin-Superior, that is on the rise and on the move. You are indeed small but mighty. Questions from the Regents for Chancellor Wachter? Regent Klein.
Yes, thank you. Chancellor, you said that 38% of your students are Pell eligible.
Yes.
And they get the Pell grants, they're not just eligible, they...
Right, it just means that they're Pell eligible.
That's the level that actually
Mhm.
receive. And then my other question was economic impact. You had was it 56 million?
54 million.
54 million. How do you measure that? I know we've had an economic impact done for the UW system, but how do you measure it here? You must do your own study.
It was. In fact, that's kind of the neat thing about it, was that study was done using in-plan software, and our faculty, 2 of our faculty members and a whole cadre of our students executed it. I don't know if any of them are out in the audience today, but they had a bunch of survey questions and then went in and looked at other indicators. They feed this into the model, and then they're able to do those projections about what the direct impact is, what the indirect impact is, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think that you've got maybe a synopsis of that in your packet somewhere. And if not, we can certainly get that to you.
Chancellor Wachter, you have endured and persevered as it relates to enrollment, and you're up a little bit this year. Do you attribute that to some change in programming? You know, we've heard criminal justice, we've heard graduate school growth. You're in a very competitive marketplace, as you talked about. Could you just sort of elaborate on how you are seeing enrollment play out here?
It's been not one silver bullet. It's been multiple efforts on multiple fronts. We have an outstanding admissions and recruiting team that work darn hard to tell our story out there. We've got a dedicated faculty and staff that help participate in those activities, going out and talking to students in the high schools, at at fairs, doing summer camps. All of that helps provide input. Some of it certainly is the changing of programs to more customized to meet needs and demands. So certainly putting it online and making it intensive, many entry points throughout the way where a student can come in makes a difference as well. So it really is a whole wide combination of things, I think, that's led to us to be able to maintain. And it's, ultimately it's a good product. It's a high quality product, and our students and our faculty and staff care a lot about making sure that it's a quality experience.
Thank you. Congratulations. Other questions from the Regents? Seeing none, let's give the Chancellor another round of applause. Thank you again, Chancellor Wachter. As we just heard, UW-Superior is engaging in significant water research on a number of fronts. We'd like to take this opportunity to focus on one area in particular. Included in your materials today, board members, is a resolution of support for the Lake Superior Research Institute Ballast Water Management System. At this time, I'd invite Regent Jason Plant to present this resolution affirming the board's support for the Ballast Water Management System. Regent Plant.
All right, thank you, Regent President Peterson. And if you weren't able to join us for the tour today, Chancellor and your team, thank you. It was a remarkable tour. Thank you for all the great work that's happened in there. So it's with great pride I can read the resolution of support. So whereas for more than 50 years, UW-Superior has been a leader in advanced research of fresh water, including Lake Superior and other Great Lakes, which form the largest body of fresh water in the world. And whereas the federal government, through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, supports UW-Superior's Great Waters Research Collaborative, a partnership between the University Lake Superior Research Institute and the U.S. Department of Transportation's Maritime Administration. And whereas since 2010, the Lake Superior Research Institute has annually received on average $1.4 million in private, state, and federal funds to find innovative solutions to prevent ships from spreading invasive species through ballast water. And whereas the Great Waters Research Collaborative conducts high-quality environmental research and provides independent testing services to support green ship, and since 2003, its research team has tested over 70 technologies for ballast water treatments and rapid assessments, annually employing and training UW-Superior students. And whereas project findings are critical to the continuous improvement of those policies and technologies that help the region, nationally, and international stakeholders of healthy water resources to have confidence in green shipping initiatives as environmental protection tools. And whereas in May of 2019, UW-Superior purchased the only land-based ballast water treatment technology testing facility on the Great Lakes, located right here on Montreal Pier in Superior, to conduct large-scale testing of ballast water treatment systems. And whereas the Lake Superior Research Institute's new research facility has gained national attention from lawmakers, the public, and the scientific community as an important tool to protect the Great Lakes while supporting undergraduate research, job creation, recreational activities, and economic development. So be it therefore be resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System hereby acknowledges the great importance of the research done by UW-Superior's Great Water Research Collaborative and the Lake Superior Research Institute to find innovative solutions to treat ballasted water, to benefit the shipping industry, to prevent the spread of invasive species, and sustainably manage the natural resources of the Great Lakes and the fresh water around the world.
Thank you, Regent Plant. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Grebe. Any discussion from board members? I would just take a moment to say, as we saw this morning, you know, this is an incredibly impactful program that the LSRI maintains and is growing and is recognized by our federal government by the way of reinvestment. When we talk about freshwater activities at all of our campuses, this is very specific to Superior, and it's having that impact. I'm very honored that we're putting this resolution forward. And with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we will turn to item 6, the UW Systems Dairy Hub Innovation Proposal. This hub is a direct outcome of the 2017 UW System Dairy Summit, which brought together dairy leaders from Wisconsin's production and processing industries, along with researchers and instructors from the UW System campuses, with the shared goal of addressing the challenges and opportunities facing the dairy industry in Wisconsin. The resulting Dairy Innovation Hub proposal was developed by the faculty and deans of UW System's 3 agricultural colleges. We are fortunate to have the 3 deans here with us today, and they will lead our presentation. I'm pleased to welcome Dean Dale Gallenberg, Dean of the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Sciences at UW River Falls, Dean Catherine Vanderbosch, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at UW-Madison, and Wayne Weber, Dean of the College of Business, Industry, Life Science, and Agriculture at UW-Platteville. Wayne, I believe the floor is yours first. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you. We're really excited about this opportunity to discuss this incredibly exciting endeavor, the Dairy Innovation Hub, and how we are poised to make a significant difference in the state of Wisconsin through this endeavor. So first, what is the Dairy Innovation Hub? The Dairy Innovation Hub is a collaborative opportunity to position Wisconsin to meet the dairy industry challenges of today
and tomorrow through corporate partnerships, research and innovation, and through developing the future leaders in the dairy industry. This is made possible through legislative funding that includes $1 million this year and $7.8 million ongoing. We appreciate the board's support in helping us realize this funding and the unanimous support of the spending plan that was then approved October 2nd by the Joint Finance Committee, also unanimously. So the hub is anchored by 4 main pillars, or what my colleague Dean Gallenberg likes to refer to as buckets, and I think it means milk buckets, right, Dale? But and so it's stewardship of land and water resources, enriching human health and nutrition, ensuring animal health and welfare, and growing farm businesses and communities. Our 3 universities are already engaged in these 4 areas. At the same time, we'd like to share with you how we're uniquely poised to make a further difference through collaboration and leveraging these resources that are investment in dairy innovation. So first, a little bit about our college. So our college is the College of Business, Industry, Life Science, and Agriculture at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. I think we hold the record for the longest name in UW system history. A little bit about our college and university. UW-Platteville was founded in 1866 as the Platteville Normal School. Later it merged with the Wisconsin Mining Trade School in 1959. And then we became UW-Platteville with the merging of UW System in 1971. When we look at our numbers today, we have almost 8,000 students. And also what's important to our dynamic is we have the Tri-State Initiative, where we have students from Iowa and Illinois who pay in-state tuition plus a small surcharge. And with that, about 75% of our students are Wisconsin residents, and approximately 20% are from Iowa and Illinois, with 5% being from Iowa and 15% being from Illinois. Relatedly, we have much to be proud of. We're ranked #1 in Wisconsin for annual return on investment. We're ranked #1 in Wisconsin for job placement. And we're ranked #1 in Wisconsin for best value. And you may have just heard, we're excited to have our 2 new campuses, right? With UW-Platteville Baraboo and UW-Platteville Richland. Our goal with these campuses is to work together, to be stronger together. And with the launch of the Associate of Science in Food and Agriculture on both of these campuses this year, the Dairy Innovation Hub will be well represented in these communities. There's our campuses right there. So, a little bit about our School of Agriculture. We have about 700 undergraduates in our school, ranging in majors from agribusiness to animal science to dairy science to environmental horticulture. Our students are highly engaged in 25 different clubs, organizations, and competitive teams just in that school. And we have very applied programs with a first destination placement rate of 83%. And that means that 83% of our ag students have jobs by the time that they graduate, either jobs or graduate school placement or professional school placement. Obviously, the overall placement is much higher, but this is when they graduate. Also, our students are highly engaged, and the Dairy Innovation Hub will facilitate further engagement as we become further influential beyond the classroom. With that, we have many competitive teams. As examples, our soils team has taken first place in 2 international competitions, the last being first place in the first ever Australasian competition in Australia. Who would imagine UW-Platteville taking first place in an Australasian international competition? And the crops team has finished in the top 5 in the nation every year over the last decade. International experiences for our students is also a priority. This is especially important with 42% of our students being first-generation students that also tend to be somewhat regional. And we know that agriculture is an international industry. In this regard, the College of BILSA has increased student participation in international experiences 117% over the last 4 years. Further, we're engaging students in entrepreneurship through student-run businesses, including a hydroponic co-op, and these endeavors will be further expanded into dairy with the Dairy Innovation Hub. All of our universities are engaged in outreach through extension. our campus focuses on nutrient management systems and soil health in Southwest Wisconsin, and dairy profitability and sustainability. And finally, research and undergraduate research. As a high-impact practice, this is another high priority and will be a key component that can be leveraged through the Dairy Innovation Hub. Some of the main areas of dairy and related research that we already do include soil and water sustainability. We've heard a lot about water today. Sustainable intensification, grazing herds and agro-ecosystems, farm management and programs for farm success, and eco-friendly pesticides, among others. With these endeavors, in our School of Agriculture alone, we have received about $5 million in active and awarded grants over the last 5 years, which is quite good for a comprehensive institution characterized by significant teaching loads. We also have excellent facilities that will provide a foundation to build on with the Dairy Innovation Hub. The most visible of these is Pioneer Farm. Pioneer Farm is an incredible living and learning laboratory that is a full production facility and a resource engine for education and research. So to conclude, our initial budget plans approved by this body and then by the Joint Finance Committee are the following in relation to the Dairy Innovation Hub. One is to replace the antiquated robotic milking systems that will provide multiple avenues of research, education, and outreach. And I must say that I was inspired by the Peterson Farm touring their facility and how they've implemented robotics throughout. Then ongoing, we're looking at 4 to 5 tenure track faculty science positions, research fellowships for existing faculty so that they can further engage in research, postdoctoral teaching fellows that will allow us to bring talent to campus, research capacity building staff to support these research endeavors, and also funds to help with infrastructure in regards to research farm facilities, labs, and equipment, and the Dairy Innovation Summit, which is a venue of communication for the Dairy Innovation Hub. So, we thank you for this opportunity to share and express why UW-Platteville is strategically positioned, along with our friends at UW-River Falls and UW-Madison, for the Dairy Innovation Hub. And now Dean Gallenberg will discuss UW-River Falls and related aspects of the hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. It's my privilege to be here. I would echo Wayne's comments of thank you to the board, to the system for their support of this initiative. Our goal today is to start to explain to you why the investment that you're making is indeed a good investment. So a little bit about UW-River Falls and the College of Agriculture, Food and Environmental Sciences. Not quite as long as BILSA, but we like to say cafes because that's a bit easier. 100 years of programming in agriculture. And as Dean of Cafes, I'm quite proud of the fact that when we talk to folks around Wisconsin and you ask the question, what is UW-River Falls known for? Certainly one of the things our institution is known for is agriculture and the programming that we have. So we have 100 years of experience. We think we've been very successful at it. I would like to compliment my colleague from Platteville as well in saying that as we work with our non-land grant colleagues around the country, outside of the states of California and Texas, which are certainly important agricultural states, between UW-Platteville, UW-River Falls, as Regents, you should know. Folks around the country know of agricultural programming in Wisconsin because of Platteville and River Falls. So we appreciate your continued support. Academically, we have 5 departments. We have a breadth of programs spreading across a number of different disciplines. We've had strong enrollment growth for a number of years. Agriculture is a strong industry, but the Dairy Hub is an example of something we must do to ensure that continued strength and growth. Wide variety of faculty in disciplines, length of tenure, activity, and so on. We do have some split appointments in extension as well. particularly agribusiness, animal health, and forages would be relevant to the Dairy Innovation Hub. We have increasing research involvement of our faculty and staff. The hub is certainly going to provide capacity for us to maintain that growth, including involvement of undergraduate students. We're proud of the connections we have with producers and industry. And as the hub moves forward, that is something that is critical to the success of the hub. Similarly, we have a broad array of facilities that represent a good investment of these funds for faculty, staff, students to conduct the research, to have the academic programming that's central to the hub. This is our array of academic programs in the college. We have something over 1,700 majors right now spread across this breadth of programs. Animal science is now the largest program at UW-River Falls. The other program in particular my chancellor asked me to point out is dairy science. We do have one of the largest undergraduate dairy science programs in the country, obviously relevant to the Dairy Hub, but the breadth of programs you see there span the 4 buckets of the hub, as my colleague Wayne Weber mentioned. And so I think from an academic program perspective, we are also well positioned. From a facility standpoint, again, we think we've got the infrastructure to begin and continue momentum. Our Dairy Learning Center and the dairy production herd at the Man Valley Farm. We've recently completed phase 2 of the agricultural engineering annex renovation. One of the intentional hires we made in the ag engineering program, one of the labs we intentionally structured in that renovation was a food and bioprocess engineering lab. We have an ongoing dairy pilot plant renovation project. I could have shown you a nice picture, but I wanted to be realistic in terms of where we are with the renovation. We are still in the middle, but I would point out as Regents, when you visit our campus in October of 2020, you will eat Falcon Foods ice cream and Falcon Foods cheese. We will be back in production. Lastly, our soil and water analysis lab, strong components in the plant and earth science department across multiple disciplines, strengths in soil analysis, strengths in water quality, particularly as it references streams. Lastly, a summary of the budget investments from UW-River Falls in year 1, initiating a couple of support staff hires, some renovation of our lab farms and equipment, or lab farms and research labs, and some equipment purchase, and then the Dairy Innovation Summit. Long-term full implementation, additional faculty positions, taking current faculty positions and providing research fellowships, research reassignments for those faculty, postdoctoral teaching fellows, emphasizing the continued importance of academic programming on our campuses, research support staff, equipment, renovations for our lab farms and other laboratories, and then also the Dairy Innovation Hub. With that, I'll turn it over to Dean Vandenbosch from CALS.
Thank you, Dale, and thank you to the board for this invitation to come talk to you and your curiosity about what we are up to and your support with this really exciting endeavor. You know, these two guys I have spent a lot of time over the last several years on the phone with, keeping in touch, but this hub is really a game changer for us because we get to collaborate in a more meaningful way. We have, over the last several years, funded annually 3 or 4 small projects for our faculty and students to collaborate on, but this is a way we're going to be working hand in glove in a big way now. So I wanted to introduce you to a little bit about the history of my college, which I should have said is the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, which we call CALS on the UW-Madison campus. So a little bit about our history and how that has been entwined with the history of the dairy industry in the state of Wisconsin, especially at a couple of really important junctures. So on the left-hand side, we see some important pieces of federal legislation that got our great land-grant colleges going across the country, starting with the Morrill Act in 1862. And I want to say that the college grew out of a state and national belief that universities could and should solve practical problems alongside the farmer, and that scientific research and education were investments in our nation's future and in democracy, supporting democracy. And those are words that are taken right from the Morrill Act. And it's really, you can see, very much akin to the Wisconsin idea of bringing the good of the university out to the state. So besides the Morrill Act, the Hatch Act and the Smith-Lever Act created a national system of agricultural research stations and agricultural and other types of cooperative extension. And our founding, the founding of the college followed the Morrill Act by close to 40 years. We were founded in the late 1880s. And at that time, the agricultural economy of the state was wheat-based and was failing. It was failing because of problems with maintaining soil health, with not knowing how to deal with pests and pathogens, and it was moving further west. So then Governor William Hord and our first dean of the college, William Henry, got together and together championed creating a dairy industry based on scientific innovation and advancements. And they worked very hard over a course of several decades to really get things going. And a contemporary was a faculty member named Stephen Babcock, who was a biochemist. And at the time, producers were paid for their milk based on volume, which was a problem because unscrupulous processors would add things to the milk, adulterating it, causing food safety problems and, inflating the cost. Babcock developed a way to evaluate milk quality based on butterfat, and that's the system that's been used ever since around the world. And so those collective activities really got dairy off the ground just at the cusp of the beginning of the 20th century. So if we fast forward a century, or nearly so, to the 1980s and 90s, we were in a farm crisis across the country. And here in Wisconsin, it was decided at the system level that the university and the state would collaborate with a dairy task force to make some prescriptions about how to move forward. They were very insightful. And not only did the dairy industry survive, it was predicted it would all move to California, and it wasn't clear it would survive. Not only did it survive, but it thrived. And I want to tell you as I go a little bit about some of the things that happened in the last 25 years that made it thrive. But before I switch to the next slide, something I want to really emphasize is that we are at one of those pivot points today. A couple years ago, we had a market crisis, which has been further exacerbated by tariff issues. And as Regent Peterson said this morning, we've had a 5-year trough of milk prices that are threatening a lot of our farms. And we're seeing a lot of consolidation. And so we had a summit 2 years ago to begin to look at things, and then a secondary task force. And this hub is a product of those two things. CALS today has about 225 faculty, and about a quarter of those have funding through extension and serve as statewide specialists in their areas. We have 17 departments in areas of agriculture, food and nutrition, environment and natural resources, and the life sciences, including biochemistry, genetics, and microbiology type fields. We have over 4,000 students, of which about 3/4 are undergraduates, 800 plus nearly 900 graduate students, and also some non-degree students that we call Farm and Industry Short Course. It's a program that actually predates the college. Oops. Just a little bit about our majors. We have 22 majors for our undergraduate students, and I've listed here those that are agriculture related. And throughout my slides where you see a red asterisk, those are things that especially pertain to the Dairy Hub. So our undergraduate majors that relate to the Dairy Hub are in fields related to agricultural production, food processing, and also business management and communication. We have a number of different mechanisms to interact with our stakeholders statewide, and it's a rich engagement, and it's staying clearly true to the idea about land-grant universities and to the Wisconsin idea. I already mentioned extension. We have, there are these 5 areas within agricultural extension, and faculty and staff in 11 of our departments engage with those programs. We have research stations that are distributed around the state, and the ones that are circled in red are those that have a dairy footprint. In addition to our Dairy Cattle Center, which is on campus right there in downtown Madison, we have facilities at 3 other locations, and the one at Prairie du Sac, sort of in the middle left there, is a collaboration with our federal partners with the USDA Agricultural Research Service. And then we also have a number of on-campus centers that carry out applied research and engage with stakeholders and many of these relate to dairy. And I want to especially point out the Center for Dairy Research and the Center for Dairy Profitability that were both products that came out of that earlier task force 30 years ago. And I'll have a word about them in a minute here. I'd like to touch on just 4 areas of research that I think are setting the table for us for the Dairy Innovation Hub that relate to those 4 buckets that we've already heard about. First of all, on-farm production. There's been a lot of change over the last 30 years, anywhere from 57 to almost 100% increase in milk production per cow. A lot more efficiency, and this has come about because of innovations in reproductive technology, nutrition, dairy cattle genetics and genomics, and farm management techniques. And this has been mirrored between things happening on the campus, the innovations that have been pushed out, and our very innovative farmers that will embrace new ideas very, very much. I mentioned the Center for Dairy Research, so that is the home of our dairy foods research, and they've been very involved in the rise of artisanal cheeses across the state and are poised to move into new areas as we anticipate in the next couple of years completion of addition on our food science building that will house the Center for Dairy Research. And they are working on the things in the fermented foods families, health beverages, sports recovery beverages, and pushing in new areas. Dairy economics is a very important area, and I've pictured here Mark Stevenson, who is the director of our Center for Dairy Profitability, and Mark was also the leader for the Dairy Task Force 2.0 that I mentioned. The Center for Dairy Profitability works directly with farms and farm families on farm financial management and long-term planning, including intergenerational transfer of farms. And then fourthly, areas related to the environment are very important and I think are critically important for the long-term success and vitality of the dairy industry. Water quality is a very big issue, nutrient management, but also actually pictured here, this was a large-scale research project just finished on the relationship between the dairy industry and greenhouse gas emissions, which concluded that there are mechanisms to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and they very much work together with increased profitability. So in year 1, we have $1 million to spend among our 3 campuses, and then at full implementation, it will be 7.8 annually. And in year 1, we are focusing on short-term investments for rapid payoff. We'll be addressing some research projects related to the recommendations of the Dairy Task Force. We will be hiring our first cohort of postdoctoral research associates and investing in some equipment. At full implementation for us, this will mean we'll be able to hire about 15 faculty in these 4 different areas and have a wonderful cohort of graduate students and postdocs that will train together in an interdisciplinary setting. We also envision some continuing education for professionals in the Advanced Dairy Management Academy, investment in infrastructure, and all of us have mentioned a summit which will happen on a regular basis, annually or biannually, to bring the innovations to our stakeholders and to hear from stakeholders about research issues that they would like us to embrace. I think, we stand on a platform of great success in the last 30 years, but we are in a new time today. We have to be successful, not just incrementally improve on where we are, but to have a paradigm shift where we really bring new innovations. And I think that this is really going to make this happen. I don't know if I'm going to be around. I'm certainly not going to be in my role 25 years from now, but I expect when we look back, we will see that this has been a pivotal time, and we'll be really proud of what the University of Wisconsin has contributed to make it happen. And with that, I'd like to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Questions from the Regents?
Yes,
Shocking. Regent Peterson.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. The whole first year that I was on the Board of Regents, I made a snarky comment one time that there was one presentation, I said, this is the first presentation, anything on agriculture in a whole year. And now we just are getting it in spades. And it's just wonderful. And we thank you for this is an important part of Wisconsin. And I've had a lot of people out in the community say, wow, thank you.
Well, and just a point of privilege, I know I was unable to attend the tour yesterday, but the feedback was remarkable. The agriculture coverage in the newspapers and trade press today was very, very strong, and I think that's a testament to the kind of work that we're trying to accomplish. Jess is just marveling at how disciplined your cows are. She's trying to figure out how she can do that for her own domestic dog. It's all food motivated, right? Regent Lebsaw.
I'd just like to make a comment. Being a dairy producer, and this is only my second meeting, and I'm really excited to hear us talking about dairy. There's a lot of people that, I'm sure Chris gets asked this question many times too, what is going to happen with the Dairy Hub, and how are we doing this, and how can we make it happen faster? I think change doesn't happen overnight, but I'm encouraged to see that we are looking at the issues that are there and how we can help the future of this industry, because it's so very, very important to the state of Wisconsin. And I hope we can have the Center for Dairy Research really move ahead and get some of the innovation, some of the new products, work with the safety that these products entail when we're in production mode. But there's so many different facets of what affects the ag industry, and I think this is a real step forward in how we can address this. There's a lot of people really looking to this project.
May I comment on a couple of those things, Mr. President?
Sure.
Do we have time?
Yes, please.
I think a really critical component for how we make decisions is an advisory council that's going to be 5 individuals from UW, 5 from industry, from some of our professional organizations, and a designate from the Secretary of Agriculture. So that's going to be one way of input, but we also envision some town halls to gather some ideas. So, yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Regent Atwell.
I'm really very excited to hear about your work, and in particular, the breadth of the approach that you're taking, I think is very appropriate for the times we're in. I think I, like many people in Wisconsin, kind of followed over the decades, are we going to beat California or not beat California in the volume of production? And my personal opinion is I wish we'd stop talking about California's commodity production. I think there's a certain sense in which the stress, which is very human to one of the most important industries in the state, it's not just an industry, it's a lifestyle, it's very painful right now for people doing it. Many 3rd, 4th generation farmers are working really, really hard and maybe not even breaking even. It seems like our future you know, we're a global powerhouse in terms of the knowledge of how to do it. But what I'm hearing is focus on value added, focus on just the impact of the industry throughout the state, and let California produce all the cheap milk they want to, and let's focus on doing this the Wisconsin way.
Other questions from Regents? President Cross, you want to say a few words?
I do want to say thanks to these deans as well and a couple of faculty. This concept evolved quite some time ago when Shelley Mayer and a number of folks from the Professional Dairy Producers Association met with me, and we were planning this dairy summit because of pricing and the challenges facing the ag industry. So out of that grew the second Dairy Task Force, Dairy Fast Task Force 2, when Ben Bransell was the secretary of DADCAP, of which this became one of the things they supported. And during those conversations, it was really important to put some of this in history. In the 90s, the first Dairy Task Force that Kate talked about, that produced the artisan cheeses that we have here. That was one of the recommendations. Let's go over to Europe and study how they develop and produce artisan cheeses. So 20 years later, we are the artisan cheese capital of the world. To your point, Regent Atwell, that's not a commodity product, that's a specialty product. Because we win those prizes year over year over year. So I hope 20 years from now, we will look back and say this particular initiative as a part of Dairy Task Force 2 will result in new and innovative ways to do things. I think you heard Kate talk about, maybe Dean Gallenberg as well, and Wayne, the increased production is just unbelievable. What my dad his eyes would pop out if he realized what cows are producing today compared to what we were doing. You know what I'm talking about, Becky and Chris, and it's just amazing today. I don't know how much more we can do with genetics. We can refine that. But we've become commodity-oriented by production, reducing cost, increasing production. And part of the effort here is to try to increase value in this process. The other issue is the dairy industry faces a lot of challenges, and it's a part of this all-in-Wisconsin effort. One of those is, what do we do with groundwater issues related to contamination in shallow wells, et cetera? How do we do that? How do we manage that well? So one of those buckets includes a lot of work on environmental issues and how best to deal with those in a responsible and appropriate way to both improve productivity and not harm the revenue production on the side of farm, but also to make sure we're producing clean water, protecting the water state, not just the dairy state. Without water, this wouldn't be the dairy state. That's what grows forages. Without water, there wouldn't be life. So this state has built its dairy industry on water. Those two go together, and we need to protect the water from which we have become a great dairy state. I think there's a third element to this. You heard them each talk about the research pieces and the buckets that, as Dale talks about, building the foundation of an interdisciplinary effort. And you heard them, it isn't just about the animal science, the dairy science people, it's also the crop people, it's also the agronomists. How do we work together to deal with and solve these problems? I won't be here in 25 years. I hope I'm alive, but in 25 years, I hope we look back and say the postdocs, the research that we hired, is the innovation. This was the innovation spawning of a future dairy industry. And my argument is 25 years from today, the people in every other state will be looking at us and saying, goodness, we should have done that too. Shame on us. We are the dairy state. We're going to remain the dairy state, and it's this kind of an investment that will assure we are 25 years from now.
Thank you. I'd just make a final comment from all three of our presenters. Obviously, thank you. You know, the common theme in all of your presentations were the investments you were making in faculty, in equipment, and professional development. And they were all varied and specialized to your own campuses. But it's been long overdue that we've been doing those sorts of things, and I agree. I hope this is an incubator for tremendous progress. So again, congratulations. Thank you for the presentation. Let's give them a round of applause. At this time, that concludes our open session activities for today, and I would ask all board members to stay in place while we complete the roll call vote to move into closed session. We'll then pause until the room is cleared. Vice President Grebe, will you read the motion to move into closed session?
I move that the Board of Regents move into closed session to consider 2 UW lacrosse honorary degree nominations as permitted by section 19.851F of the Wisconsin statutes, to consider 2 UW-Madison honorary degree nominations as permitted by section 19.851F of the Wisconsin statutes, to consider 2 UW-Madison salary adjustments as permitted by section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes, to consider personnel